I'm back live on. Thanks for the channel. Thanks for joining me on the channel. I just sat down and I'm 22 minutes late. I'm so sorry about that. I was stuck, indisposed, as one would say, and I think that I've been thinking all week about a podcast episode, a guest, and something a guest said. And it makes me think about how I work through challenges that I'm stuck on. I am someone who tends to sit with those things for a little while until something inspires me or I learn something that makes me, I don't know, there's like a light bulb moment where all of a sudden I'm like, oh, maybe I'm unstuck now and I can move on something. And I think we all get there and we all work through that kind of thing differently. But the podcast, and full disclosure, I've been a guest on this podcast and I really enjoy it. And I know one of the hosts with the producer a little bit. He's a local photographer whom I've worked with in the past. He did a bunch of my headshots, and we had a conversation about me being a guest on the show a couple years ago, and I think I was in season 1 and they're on like season 3 or something right now. So anyway, the podcast is called The Worst Advice I Ever Got. It's a really interesting concept to think about the depths that we go with advice that we think is bad, and everybody works with good intentions, but we have sort of unconventional ways of working through guidance that we want to reject or we have disproven. And it's a really fascinating podcast. It is mostly business or entrepreneurial twisted, not twisted, but like it has that lean to it, but some guests are definitely coming at it with more of a personal advice or life advice standpoint. So all that to say, recent guest on there, and you may have heard of this gentleman named Michael Brody-Waite. I think he has a popular TED talk that I have every intention of going and watching on YouTube here in a little bit. I'll probably get to it this weekend. I'm inspired to watch it, and I'm inspired by some of his story where he found himself, homeless and working through addiction and struggling at a young age. All of that at a young age, like when he was 23. And what inspired me wasn't that. It was his take on 12-step programs. And this is not an endorsement of any specific 12-step program. I know there's people out there who probably love some of them and hate other aspects of them, and certainly entitled to your opinions on those if you have them. I personally do not have a single opinion about them. I know bupkis. I know nothing about 12-step programs or the 12-step process, which I believe is about 110 years old or something. Anyway, what Mr. Brody-Waite covered was how 12-step programs are basically a playbook. They're the keys to getting out of these really difficult situations that people find themselves in when they are working through addiction, and different aspects of their life have been ruined or challenged, or however you would phrase that. I'm trying to be gentle. Because I'm stepping in a space and saying all that I don't necessarily understand all that well. Unfortunately, this isn't really about that. He said that a group of 20 people, 1 in 20 will ever work through and be like drug-free or alcohol-free or addiction-free of their addiction for an entire year. And of those that get through, only 10% of those will make it to 10 years, which are just dismal numbers. I shudder to think how difficult all that is. But what he kind of was angling at is how the concept of the 12-step program is really convertible, the way it helps people in other aspects of their life. And he's not sure why it's not used more in leadership and business or personal growth in more general ways consistently. And that got me thinking, it was inspirational to hear that. His whole story is super inspirational, but to think about things that I get stuck on at times and the waiting period or the spiral I enter as I try to work through or find a way through a difficult thing, whether it's digging for inspiration or knowledge or something that unlocks me in order to get movement or quit any small or large aspect of life, to say, okay, this isn't going to work, or this is working, or maybe it'll work if I just learn this one thing, or I need a certain level of inspiration. But that's time. So when you think about the application of 12-step programs for, say, leadership, that's really fascinating for me. It's something that I want to try to research because, and he makes this point in the show, and I've been rephrasing it in my head a couple times for a couple of days, where a lot of people have advice of what not to do. People are always open and willing to tell you what you should not be doing. They say, don't do this, don't do that. Especially we do that with kids, if I'm being honest. Instead of telling you what you should be doing instead. So instead of don't do that, we might go, don't do that, do this instead. But really, it's better to just say, do this thing. And the space that takes up, the other thing that you don't want to be doing or don't want someone else to be doing will not get done. The space will be filled. It is super fascinating to me. I'm kind of inspired to dig into that idea more and to think about, because I tell myself, like my internal dialogue is sometimes, I really shouldn't be doing that, or shouldn't be doing this, or I want to do that thing and I'm going to go do it anyway because I'm feeling rascally, whatever. We all get there. And I tell myself, and I'm not alone in this, I guarantee it, don't do that. Don't do this, don't do that. It's like human nature to give myself or give others the same advice, to say, don't do that. When in fact, we should just be saying, do this other thing instead. And that other thing will fill that space. So I think that made sense. I am pretty inspired by it. I'm going to go back and listen again, and then I'm going to dig out the TED Talk of Mr. Michael Brody-Waite and try to think about learning more. Well, not think about, but learn more about 12-step programs to see how it applies to leadership, not just the idea of working through addiction. To see if there's a structure there that maybe can shake some level of unstuckness in myself as a leader, as a communicator, and as a business owner. It's, I'm not saying it becomes a pattern. I'm not saying it's something that I want to exact as a system or a philosophy in general on a day-to-day, but it's definitely a fun learning exercise. And sometimes it's just fun to go down those rabbit holes and learn something, because I'm always inquisitive. So anyway, that's just all I wanted to chat about. And I felt bad I was late because I was in a client meeting and I ran over, and boy, my anxiety was going nuts. My leg was bouncing the entire time. Like, I got to go to my live show. And then I drove back across town and it took 20 minutes, and those are my excuses, which I am now done giving. Excuse session complete. So anyway, I hope you're killing it this week. I hope you're having a great time getting a lot of things done. I will see you back here Friday. I'm pretty excited about what I'm going to talk about Friday. So come back 11 a.m. Eastern here live Friday. And I hope you crush for the rest of the week. I hope you just bang out all them to-dos. Check the boxes. You know you're doing it. And I'll see you then. Have a good one.